Hello and welcome to the Cheap Seats South Africa. This is your football show that provides you a preview of all the games and all the banter coming with those games that are going to be happening in the week in and around the football. This is our show as we go into the new season. We'll be providing you with a lot more content. Today, the foursome that will be with us is AB Miller, and Wahid Vadi and Cyrus. How are you, gents? Let me ask Wahid first because he's new. Wahid, how's it going, man?
Yeah, very good, thanks. I'm good, glad to be on the show, and you guys are talking about the banter, and I think the first banter starts off with the fact that we've got two United fans who don't compete in this in this tournament, talking about the Champions League.
Well, not yet, at least, Wahid.
That is true. You guys played last night in the Europa League. Cyrus, how are you doing this week after Saturday?
Yeah. I'm good. Look, the FA Cup final is a tough one to lose because, the trophy is quite a nice one. But at the same time, it's not as if we ended the season empty-handed. And if somebody asked me if I wanted the FA Cup or Champions League place, I think I know where I'd be going. But, FA Cup in 8th place is not bad for Arsenal, So we'll leave it at that.
Look, I did say that winning the FA Cup will breed a winning mentality and create a team culture. And if they just channel that winning culture, they might be able to challenge for 7th next season.
Love it.
Okay, look, all I'm going to say is we've had 7 seasons and we've come out with 4 trophies. AB, how are you doing this week?
I'm great. I'm not getting involved in any of this post FA Cup drama. Congrats to Arsenal. I know as a United fan, I wanted us to be in the final. I wanted us to challenge for the trophy. Unfortunately, our squad was not deep enough, and that was shown against Chelsea with their press when it destroyed United, and last night in the game against Lask. Wow, that United team needs work, and I'm sure we'll discuss more about that in the coming weeks. Hopefully, the number 7 jersey will get filled. But I'm excited about the Champions League. I'm really keen.
Speaking about number 7 jerseys, Alexis Sanchez is now left Manchester United. I'm sure you two are happy. But anyway, just a little bit of housework. We are live on One World Sports Radio's YouTube channel. As you see with the tick at the bottom, please subscribe, like, and share our video as widely as possible. Let's get the conversation in, and we'll try to bring on more guests and get people in onto the show. But so today, gents, we're talking UEFA Champions League. We're talking UEFA Europa League if we have time. But it's been 149 days tomorrow or on Friday since the last Champions League match, which was that Atletico-Liverpool match. How do you guys feel?
That was a beautiful match.
Yes, for you. But how do you guys feel about this now season-ending style quarterfinal, semi-final, knockout Champions League? Do you want it the old way, or do you think this new way could be better? Wahid, let's start with you.
So look, I don't think this is necessarily better. I think part of the Champions League is the nights in the middle of the week under floodlights, the music in between your league games, and I think it's all part of the glamour of the Champions League. I think that what UEFA have done is they're going to create a World Cup-like tournament at the end of the season, which I suspect will be very entertaining. I think we're going to see a lot of tired bodies, and tired bodies tend to create very entertaining football. So I think it's going to be very enjoyable. I'm not sure it's going to be better than what we're accustomed to in the Champions League.
That's good. AB, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he nailed it right on the head there. It's about that midweek drama. It's about that going away, grinding out a result, getting an away goal if possible, or stopping that home team from scoring and then coming home and trying to win it with your fans. I must say I am excited purely because the Premier League had ended, all the major leagues had ended, and now fans for this 3-week period have something on the weekends to look forward to before the real work starts. And the added dynamic of the fixtures going forward being a one-off in a neutral venue really just lets the footballers play football, and it's kind of like Who Wants It More. There are no more excuses anymore. So I'm excited about that
Cyrus.
element.
Okay, Cyrus, you're the only dog in the fight here with Chelsea. How do
Yeah.
you feel about this?
Well, the Champions League basically ended for us when we lost 3-0. So, it's going to be an uphill battle anyway as a Chelsea fan. But I think the thing is the return of Champions League football is great. And let's also not forget that, yes, it might not be perfect, but this is what we have. This is the coronavirus times. Things are insane. There won't be fans. And that's actually been really helpful because I haven't really encountered too many Liverpool fans apart from on social media and the WhatsApp groups. But the thing for me is it's also about these guys trying to finish up what's been started. The Champions League should be a tournament that is won every season, and you don't want it to suddenly be forfeited and nobody gets a chance to lift up that trophy. So the fact that everybody in these major leagues has managed to band together to do the right thing to get football back in business is exceptional. Whether or not my team can go any further than the upcoming clashes, well, we'll have to see. But I do think that it's going to be great, regardless of who's going to be playing. I mean, it'll be just worthwhile seeing what happens. I have a sneaking suspicion that the Blues team in Manchester might do something ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would be the worst possible way to end the season for any United fan, with Liverpool winning the league, City winning the Champions League, and Leeds being promoted.
Yeah, but I just have this feeling.
Yes.
Question for all of you. We've often talked about asterisks, and Cyrus was talking about how we've come up with a way of finishing the season. And I know when people threw out the whole asterisk next to the Premier League title, it was more a way of just annoying Liverpool fans, because at the end of the day, 38 games were played, and Liverpool were the best team over 38 games. When it comes to the Champions League, is there a potential to start talking about an asterisk next to it? I mean, it's going to be a very different way of winning this Champions League compared to teams who've done it before, who've had to do it between fixtures, who've had to do it the hard way, who've had to do it over 2 legs. Will there be talk of an asterisk next to the winner?
That's interesting. And I'm going to jump in here because this goes to something I always talk about being a purist about the Champions League. It should be the number one team, the actual champions, and potentially the runners-up, not the team that finished 3rd and 4th. They weren't even in the race. But the thing for me is, surely then, if we're going to use that as the criteria, then we say that the team that finished 4th in their league, winning the Champions League, should also have an asterisk next to their name. Because what did they do? They were champions of their division. And I mean, I know that United, Chelsea, Arsenal fans all said this about Liverpool in the past. It was like, well, all you do is try and chase 3rd place or 4th place and then win the cup because, that can be done. I think that you still have to beat the teams in front of you. So regardless of whether or not some fans say there's an asterisk, right next to what happens with that team, they would still be Champions League winners regardless, like Corona season.
That's a very interesting point there, Si. Very, very interesting.
So to your point, Cyrus, on this whole competitive nature, these teams are going to play. There'll be 26 games in 19 days. Doesn't that at least replicate that the thing that Manchester United fans always complain about in terms of the fixture backlog and not having enough time? Because these guys are going to play Wednesday, Saturday to figure out to get to a winner.
And this is but don't you think it's a bit like basketball, AB? Because in essence, what you have is night after night after night. It's just that it isn't the same kind of stress. Basketball, you can just sort of bump up against another guy and you're basically running all night. Football, you are slide tackling into people. There's crazy kicks happening. So there can be a whole bunch of injury things. That then means that the depth of your squad is most important. And I know when we go into discussing the exact fixtures themselves, one of the critical things will be who's had more rest than the other team, and will that then affect form?
True. Also, just another caveat is that there's no, FA Cup semi-final, no FA Cup final, no important game in the Premier League breaking up these quarterfinals and semi-finals and eventually final. So, asterisks perhaps, but at the end of the day, whoever lifts that trophy are kings of Europe, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and essentially it's the state of the game and the state of the world right now. And you can put an asterisk, you can call it a star, whatever you want to call it. They'll still call themselves champions of Europe. They made the they won't have is a bus parade, because
they can have the bus parade. They just won't have. Oh, I suppose it depends then if whether or not the people socially distance or listen to the compliance, as we saw in Liverpool, fireworks displays, people coming out in their droves, and maybe it seems like I'm on a bash Liverpool crusade here.
Okay, gents, let's get into what we're here to do. There are 4 fixtures happening on Friday and Saturday, and they are as follows. As you can see, Juventus and Lyon. They didn't finish their tie. Their aggregate, Juventus is 1-0 down in that match, in that tie. Manchester City versus Real Madrid. Look away, Wahid and AB. 2-1 up at the Etihad. Bayern Munich and Chelsea. Cyrus, I don't know if you can find 4 goals somewhere or extend this to extra time. And Barcelona.
3 and penalties.
Barcelona and Napoli. It's 1-1. These games are very interesting, very important. A lot of surprise results apart from the one fixture. But okay, so I think let's just start at the top. Juventus and Lyon. My big problem with this fixture, gents, is that Lyon have not played football in 4 months. That for me just gives it to Juventus, regardless of whether Juventus have had the worst season ever. Juventus have lost a cup final in the Coppa Italia against Napoli. And I don't think you guys like Maurizio Sarri, and I'm sure Cyrus is not a big fan of his. But I do think, Juventus can come through. Paulo Dybala is injured somewhat and probably will have a late fitness test. But I don't see Lyon doing much here, apart from the fact that Memphis Depay is fit and could cause a problem. They were tight in the first leg, and they managed to come out with a win. But I'm just not too sure if they can do it this time. There's some very nice players in Houssen Aouar, who I think everyone's looking to try and get, and Bruno Guimaraes, player, the defensive midfielder. But gents, what do you think?
Yeah, I watched Lyon live this season at the Parc des Princes. I watched him play against PSG, and there was a few other players that I noticed other than what you mentioned, and that was Moussa Dembele. I think he's a fantastic number 9. I think he's a classic number 9, which a lot of Premier League teams probably crave. But the interesting one was Jason Denayer. I think he came from a City player. He former City player. He's a very, very good player. And I get what you're saying that they haven't played in 4 months, but I think they're a very good side. I think they can. They've showed against Juventus before that they have done damage, and they can potentially do that again.
The biggest thing, though, is now you're up against a fully fit, fully match-ready Juve team who have been rested. They've rested their star players. One name comes to mind, and that's Cristiano. And this is, in fact, his competition and his world. We're just sharing in it. And what he wants is going to happen. And, he went to Juve to prove a point that he can still compete in any league, anywhere in the world, and this is the competition in which to do it. He knows that, people say he went to Juve and it's an easy league, it's guaranteed for them to win the Serie A as opposed to Madrid. And him being rested, unfortunately for Lyon, they don't have their away fans. And Juve are going to come out guns blazing, and it's going to be...
And to that point, Lyon haven't won an away game in the Champions League since 2008 against Fiorentina. So even though there are no fans there, it's still in Turin. I think it might cause... I really don't see them getting out of this. Cyrus,
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I think every single point that you guys have made has been critical here, because the reality is Lyon, although they have played in the Coupe de la Ligue, they don't have the amount of minutes in the players' legs unless they've got them running up and down mountains somewhere. I don't see them having the requisite match fitness. But the one thing that could be playing into their hands is the complete lack of consistent form in Juventus' side. they literally limped to the end of the season. They did enough to make sure that they won the league, and then that was basically it. They stopped playing. So yes, I do think Cristiano Ronaldo will be the real catalyst here. But let's also remember that outside of him, there's a whole bunch of work that needs to go into winning this game. Leon knows there's no other football that they have to really focus on. This is it. If they can't do it now, when are they going to do it? So I don't think that we should write them off completely. But I do think that everything seems to play into Juventus's hands. And just to be clear, I'm not a Sarri hater. I just didn't think he was right for Chelsea.
Okay. I'm not a fan of Maurizio Sarri, but I do think that if you look at how Napoli played Juventus in that Coppa Italia final, if you can be a compact side and just give them the wings, it's fine. And you just make sure they don't come down the middle and you intercept every pass, you have every chance of winning. And I think Napoli managed that game to penalties and ended up winning the Coppa Italia. If Leon can do that, it's possible. The next one is Manchester City, Real Madrid. AB, do you think the noisy neighbors can do it? Can they hold on?
Oof, well, and this is where, for once, I feel sorry for City. And you won't hear me say that often. If you go back to that first leg, that City team were nowhere until, like a few minutes. Boom, games changed. They had a snatch and grab at the Bernabeu, and suddenly, they had a little bit of form in the league, although it was a bit too little too late. And, they were ready for the return leg. I think Pep had a plan, had the game gone on, when it was supposed to. And now we've got a City team who had a very underwhelming performance in the league, have got Aguero out injured, their main catalyst up front. Real Madrid found some form. They went and won the La Liga, which was huge for them, considering they lost Cristiano Ronaldo and got Eden Hazard, but who didn't really have the Ronaldo-esque season. So I think Real Madrid would be a bit confident going into this game. However, their biggest player, in my opinion, Sergio Ramos, is out of this game. Now, of course, he's a defender and Real don't really need goals, but Ramos comes up on these big occasions and actually scores these goals out of nowhere. And he's done so, this season. Him and Benzema have led the line in a very weird leading the line sort of way. So Benzema's got a massive game. Yeah, Benzema's got a massive game ahead of him. But I think City will just edge it here. City have had quite a bit of rest, so have Real, but it's two away goals, and Pep does know how to beat Madrid. Wherever he goes, he knows how to beat Madrid. But this is the game I'm most excited for. It's the City Real game, where if Real come out and go all out attack, or even attack from the counter, which they can do, you've got Hazard, you've got Vinicius, and you've got Benzema, who's probably had the best season of his career, in my opinion, because finally the spotlight's on him and he's just showing the world what he can do at such an prime age. It's very tough for me to call, actually. I think City will do it, but I'm kind of hoping that Madrid.
Just call it.
Just call it.
Well, then I'm thinking a 1-1 draw, but a very spirited 1-1 draw, and then City go through. But I don't know.
I think you're not. I think one of the things we have to remember is that City are a very bipolar team. On one hand, they are fantastic when they're on song, when everything is working out in the way that the pictures in Pep's mind wanted to work out like. But when a team grabs City by the neck, and really, I had a different word in mind, but when a team really grabs a game by the scruff of the neck and goes at City don't have the best defenders in the world when playing on the back foot. When City are on the front foot, they're very good at coming out of the ball. Their fullbacks are very good at bombarding the space in behind the opposition. But when a team comes at City, often get a little bit panicky at the back, and I'll be interested to see how those defenders cope with an onslaught from Real Madrid.
Cyrus, what do you think? Is it
Come on,
going
guys.
to be plain sailing?
Come
It's
on,
going to be
guys.
tough.
Look, it's not going to be easy for either team here, but let's also not forget what we saw towards the tail end of the La Liga season. Real Madrid were not playing good football. They were actually struggling against relatively mediocre teams, and now they're up against a City team who were actually pretty good when the resumption started. They lost a few key matches. That was a critical thing that cost them. But they are also a City team who are very hungry. You can see it from the players, you can see it from the coach. They've got some of the best players in Europe in that team. Kevin De Bruyne is incredible. Bernardo Silva doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Raheem Sterling has also been fantastic and was the winner in Madrid. So, when it comes down to it, Real have to do the traveling. Real have to pick themselves up because they've got a deficit here. And all City have to do is just play their natural game because Real are going to be up for the taking. I cannot think of any Real defense that doesn't have Sergio Ramos that will be stable. Yes, they've got, what's the French kid's name?
Varane.
Yeah, Varane, who's at the back, and he's incredible. But apart from him, do you really look at that Real Madrid defense and say, yep, those guys are going to stop Raheem Sterling from getting behind them, or they're going to stop Kevin De Bruyne from picking out a pass? It just comes down to, as Wahid was saying, which City pitches up on the night. And I think that City, for them, they're playing at home. Yes, there's no fans, but they'll feel that they need to do it now. And if they're ever going to do it, they can beat this Real Madrid team, and I think that they will.
Well, City will be used to playing in an empty stadium. I mean, they've been doing it for a number of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
In their league-winning seasons, they did that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From my perspective, I think Real Madrid have, as Cyrus says, have not played well towards the back end of that season. They were helped by Barcelona, who were making mistakes towards the back end of that La Liga season. Having Sergio Ramos be your primary goal scorer in the end of that season is not good. But I do think when it comes to the Champions League, Real Madrid have that edge. But does that come with Sergio Ramos? We'll find out on Saturday. But I do think on the other side, you've got guys who are hungry for success. They drop the ball in the Premier League. They drop the ball in the FA Cup. And they only have the League Cup to show for it, which is a trophy in itself. But we know what the City owners paid for. And they paid for it. And this is the best Champions League run they could ever get. They've come across Barcelona, they lost. I think they had a Bayern Munich scare and they lost. I think they've met PSG before and they've lost. Here's a moment where you're going into a tie at home, 2-1 up. If you don't seal then it's on them. I think that's fundamentally the thing with City. And if it's a FA Cup situation where they don't pitch up or they get caught cold, then Pep really might have a lot to answer for with the board. Okay, the next one is Cyrus. I'm gonna defer to you. And the question is, have you been called by Frank Lampard? Is he playing?
So you've got
with that injury situation, and can you do the unthinkable?
Okay, I'm going to use two hats here. I'm going to use my Chelsea supporters hat and I'm going to use my realist hat. Let's start with the Chelsea supporters hat. There was a miracle that happened in Munich a few years back in 2012 when Chelsea somehow managed to win the Champions League from an incredibly dire situation, to have conceded so late in the game. Yes, there were big moment players in that squad when you look at the likes of Didier Drogba, who I know instilled fear in many a team's hearts. And you don't necessarily have that in a Chelsea lineup like we do now, especially when, consider that team that beat Bayern Munich had a half-fit Gary Cahill and a half-fit David Luiz playing at the back. Maybe a half-fit David Luiz at the moment might be better than some of the Chelsea defenders, but there might be cause for Chelsea supporters to say, look, if they can keep things relatively tight, why not have a go? The biggest problems here will be the fact that Christian Pulisic is out, and he's definitely out of this game. Willian might be there. Kante should be fit enough because he was on the bench for the FA Cup final, even though he didn't come on, and he'll be critical. And if Kante plays and you've got Kovacic there, I think that they'd have enough to potentially give Bayern some problems, but it's really what Chelsea do, trying to keep them out, that will be the critical thing. And obviously, Chelsea have to do all the running. They're 3-0 down. So if they can get an early goal, maybe Olivier Giroud comes up with one of his absolutely ridiculous finishes, then you're 2 goals behind and anything can happen. I just don't see Bayern messing it up. And this is my realist hat on now. Bayern just have enough key talent in every position that they should be able to relatively walk this. And they had such a great comeback when their league restarted. But there's also the fact that they haven't played much football in Germany since a couple. I think it's been maybe a month. So
2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks.
Let's call it a month. Because 2 weeks without playing. Look, considering Chelsea just played on Saturday. So you've got a long gap in action. So that match intensity is always a tough thing to get. But class teams seem to find a way. I'm going to say, realistically, Bayern will probably win the match itself. It might actually even end up being a draw, like 1-1, but Bayern will go through.
Wahid, what do you think?
Yeah, so you talk about miracles, and we've seen it before. We've seen United overturn a deficit in Paris last year with a young team, with a tired team. So it's not out of the realms of possibility. Having said that, I don't think Chelsea looked particularly good in the last couple of weeks of the season. I think there were slip-ups. I think there were mistakes. I don't think they looked particularly good. And the point that Cyrus made about Bayern being off for 2 weeks, I actually think that's beneficial to Bayern. I think Chelsea will go into this game a little bit tired, a little bit sore, and Bayern are going to be rested. They'll have fresher legs. I think that I almost think that this is a game that Frank Lampard probably doesn't want. It's probably a time he'd probably be looking to walk away from the season, assess what's happened, start planning for next season. And this is probably just a little bit of an inconvenience considering the scoreline. I personally can't see anything other than a Bayern win in the game and progressing in the tie.
AB, do you think they have it in them? Do you think they have the legs?
I mean, if Chelsea were allowed to use their new signings, and maybe there was a goal down, like maybe it was 2-0, by all means. But to be perfectly honest, Bayern only play 2 games in the league every year, and that's against Dortmund. Every other time, it's just a cakewalk for them.
Ooh.
So they're used to.
There's a couple of teams who might say, "Hang on a second, we've given them around their money." Bayern pulled a Celtic here.
Yeah, and where are they? They're not in this stage. But yeah, it's.
Leipzig
Bayern
is in Lisbon right now.
Yeah, but
Leipzig are there.
But I mean, that's a favorable draw. I don't want to talk about it. We'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
But Bayern have 2 jobs. Well, technically 1 real job as a club, and that is to be in the semifinals of the Champions League. If you're a Bayern Munich manager and you don't make it to the semifinal of the Champions League every year, you're doing something wrong. And 3-0, if it was 2, I'd say there's a fighting chance. But for Chelsea to go and score 4 away goals would be something for Chelsea, and they have the firepower to do so. I mean, Olivier Giroud is world class in my opinion, but for Chelsea to keep a shutout is.
I was about to say to score 3 unanswered goals or 4 unanswered goals is a big task.
But this is what I've always said for people, especially when you look at it. Les Frank will have told the guys, there's no pressure here, right? You're going to go into this game already on the back foot. But Bayern scored 3 at your house. What stops you from doing that at theirs, right? Exactly. There's no reason why it can't happen, other than the fact that they've been pretty useless. So, keeping goals out. But this is the same Chelsea team who nobody expected them to beat City in the league game towards the end of the season. They managed to do that. They somehow find, like beating United in the FA Cup semi-final. There's always a weird reserve they find in some really high pressure moments. They just couldn't find that in the FA Cup finals consistently. But Paul, I'm sure you have your own thoughts on what you think is going to happen.
So I think Marcus Alonso is out from suspension. Jorginho is out from suspension, and you've got all those injuries. The kids can do it. The kids will learn a lot from it. I just think that you can't stop Bayern from scoring the way they were scoring, even against Dortmund in that period where they were resuming the play in Germany was incredible. It's like it made their football a lot more simpler, taking away the pressure from the fans. And I think going to the Allianz for you guys is going to be something else. I do agree with Wahid that I think Lampard wants to go back to London. He doesn't want to go to Lisbon to go play next to Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. So I think just, it's one of those situations where the first round tie was the one that killed it for you, for Chelsea. It's just they honoring a fixture, and I wouldn't be surprised if you play the academy side. I honestly wouldn't be.
They will play a lot of youngsters. There's no question. I've seen some of the guys that they've brought up. But I also feel even if they do, right, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're capitulating. It basically means
I know that. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite frankly, for any kid in the Chelsea academy, I'd want to be on that flight. Honestly, I would want to be there. Okay, gents, last fixture of the week, of the round, Barcelona and Napoli. Barcelona got an away goal in Napoli, and now they're hosting them to defend it at the Nou Camp. What do you guys think this is going to be, Wahid?
Barcelona got an away goal at Napoli and drew that game 1-1. But I don't know if you remember the intricacies of that game. Barcelona were hella lucky to hang on. Napoli missed some gilt-edged opportunities, and they should have put that game to bed 70 minutes in. Honestly, Napoli should not have needed the second leg. They could have put the tie to bed in that first game. And Barcelona at times this season have looked like a club in flux. And I've often said if it wasn't for Messi, Barcelona might find themselves in a similar position to Man United or AC Milan as a fallen giant. Their recruitment has been all over the place for a while. They seem to have a lot of infighting. Messi and the coach don't seem to get on. And at the end of the day, I think Barcelona will win the game based on the absolute firepower that they have in Messi, Suarez, and Griezmann. I think that Napoli didn't do very well in the league this season. I mean, they were really, really goal shy. They struggled to put away opportunities. I think their top scorer was the Polish guy Milik, and he scored, I think, 11 goals in total. It wasn't a prolific season by any stretch of the imagination. Their other goal scorer, Lorenzo Insigne, is injured for this game. He's out with I think it's a torn abductor. And they're not going to be in the greatest shape going into this game in terms of being able to go to the Nou Camp and score goals. Barcelona have some suspensions in midfield. Busquets is out suspended. Vidal is out suspended. So they'll need to rotate their midfield a little bit. I can't see them losing the tie. I must be honest. They lost their second last game of the season 2-1 to Osasuna. It didn't look great in that game either. But having said that, I think they'll have the firepower to edge Napoli in this one.
Cyrus, what do you think?
One of the things that's been so beautiful about saying the word Barcelona in the last few years is that it is always meaning Messi. So whoever's got Messi on their side basically can look to try and win the tie. And although things aren't necessarily all in their favor, Barca should have enough to beat Napoli. I think Napoli have just been they've been almost an enigma in the sense that yes, there are changes that have happened in that squad, and yes, their form has been all over the place. And I think that's contributed to them being in a really, really bad situation because they toppled down Serie A. They really just lost complete confidence. And so you didn't necessarily see goal threat. You didn't see any defensive effort. Yet, when you look at Barca, you don't necessarily say the same things. What you say is Barca weren't as cutting as they normally are, or weren't as clinical as they should have been when in those situations. But they've got Griezmann, they've got Messi, they've got Suarez, they've got Braithwaite. Yes, I even said that. So, there are all sorts of different options at their disposal just in attack alone. Midfield, they've got guys. It's just a question of what happens next. And I do think Barca should win this tie because they're that kind of team. But overall, they might not necessarily go and win the Champions League.
Yes, I agree with you. I think this is one of those games going to go down to the best players on the pitch are. And if you took Messi out, Napoli would necessarily say have a chance. But because he's there, no matter what's happening at the back, unless if Napoli can counter well, then they have a chance. But outside of that, I don't see them winning this tie. They did win the Coppa Italia holding Juventus, but even then they had gilt-edged chances that they've missed. So, AB, I honestly, I defer to you. Do you see Barcelona being top of that in the camp?
So it's going to be very difficult for Napoli to beat Barca. But saying that, if I was Gattuso, you've got nothing to lose here. I'd go out, I'd put my fullbacks, I'd give them an instruction to say, okay, cool, go for it. Stretch Barca, press them early on, just get that one goal. Even if it's a dirty goal, even if Milic has to scrabble it over the line, or you get someone like Politano, who played really well on the weekend. Let's not take anything away from their win against Lazio. They scored 3 goals, they played really well. And there is quality in this Napoli team. If you think of the names, you've got Lozano there, who has been linked with some of the biggest clubs. You've got a great defense of Koulibaly and Manolas. Dries Mertens somehow has had his worst season in a Napoli shirt, but all he needs is one little chance or just one game. And the fact that there's just one goal in it means that this tie is open. And if Gattuso just rallies his troops and says, just go for it, leave nothing to chance and put your all out there, see what happens. Anything could happen. And then this Barcelona team may not be the most strong mentally to handle with coming from behind and chasing a game. I'd really like to see a strong, high-pressure start from Napoli. And
that would be very in keeping with Gattuso's personality, that the whole motivational leader, it would be right up his alley to get his team right in the faces of these Barcelona players who might, as AB said, might not be the most mentally tough right now. They've got players like Frankie de Jong and stuff who are excellent technical footballers, but I wonder how they react to players really getting up and aggressive in their space.
Well, Barcelona play Atletico Madrid at least once a season, and if Gattuso isn't Diego Simeone-esque, I don't know who is. So they'll be used to the players doing that, snarling and what have you. They'll be prepared for that kind of stuff. It's whether or not Napoli can weather the storm that's going to come at them.
Yeah. So, gents, let's look at the fixtures once more, and let me know which one you'll be watching and what you think the prediction will be. So I'm going to start. I will watch Juventus and Lyon, and I think Juventus will win, but I'm seriously hoping Lyon does something here. Wahid, what will you be watching?
Look, I'm not gonna lie. The City Real Madrid game is one that captivates the imagination. I mean, it's the tie of the round. It's to all intents and purposes a game that should have been the final of the Champions League, and I'll be watching that game for sure. I'm going to go out and say that I think City are going to win it. I think City will win this game 1-0. I think they'll sneak it. I think Pep will get his tactics spot on. He is a tactical genius. And I think City will go through to the next round. I'm hoping that isn't the case.
AB, AB, what game are you watching? The Noisy Neighbors or anybody else?
Oh man, yeah, I am going to be watching the Noisy Neighbors. My girlfriend is a Real Madrid fan, so we'll be cheering for Real Madrid. Hopefully, Zidane outthinks Pep for not the first time in his career, but definitely Pep has got his number. And then, of course, I'm going to be watching Napoli. I'm a closet Napoli fan, thanks to a few FIFA sessions online, and I'm just going to hope that they upset Barcelona. As a United fan, I have a lot of hurt caused by Barcelona. It was 2 Champions League finals that resonate deeply with me. So I'm a Napoli fan. I'm a Madrid fan. Yeah.
And so we know Cyrus will be trying to see if the miracle is going to happen.
I'll have one eye on that game.
Are you watching?
Yeah, look, the thing is, I'm actually going to try and watch as many of them as possible. The City Real game really will be one of the key games. I'll also keep an eye on what's happening with Barcelona and Napoli, because I think that should be quite an entertaining one. Potentially one of those, comical sketches where there's just a floor full of banana skins and you never know who falls over first. But but I think, yeah, look, obviously I'll be watching what happens with Chelsea. Though I don't know if I'll be watching it as intently as I should. When you're down 3-0 already on aggregate, you start wondering about other things. But
our manager said something very pertinent last season. He said the mountains were made to be climbed.
Just hope you don't see Anthony Taylor somewhere at the Allianz this weekend, Cyrus. That's what
Look, Chelsea have found many a referee not named Anthony Taylor who's also caused them problems. We have to do what we have to do.
Yes. So, gents, we'll have another show sometime next week. The quarterfinals start on on Wednesday next week. Let me just show you what the quarterfinal legs will look like for everybody. We'll have a show just before the quarterfinals begin. Atalanta PSG starting off on Wednesday, Leipzig Atletico on Thursday, Napoli Barcelona versus the winner of Chelsea Bayern Munich on Thursday, and Madrid City versus Juventus and Lyon, a tasty one with Cristiano Ronaldo playing either Manchester City or Real Madrid. One question I leave with you guys before we end it off. Here is a quiz question. And the question is, because Bayern Munich are the team that has the highest deficit in this going into this round, they have a very interesting record against London teams. How many goals have they scored against London teams in the Champions League? I think in the last 4 years.
In the last 4 years?
4 years.
Yes.
Jeepers. So, Cyrus, that final.
Well, that was
Jurg's won.
So that's way too. That's
4 years. Shocks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my answer is already gone.
Including the last time Arsenal played them in that final.
So
I was about to say, like, didn't they beat Arsenal by like 27 goals?
Yes, in one leg. Look, it's actually weird because I read somewhere just today that Bayern against London teams are 17-3. I think it was on BBC.
That's the one.
I think that might be the thing, that they lead London 17-3.
Yes, they have scored 17 goals against London sides, and they've only conceded 3. For the Manchester United fans in the corner there, Wahid and AB, one last question for you guys. Who's the top goal scorer in the UEFA Europa League?
Well, Mason Greenwood is our top scorer. It might be Raul Jimenez, because I know he has got the most goals scored from any striker, but Premier League. But that's
is it not Aubameyang?
I was gonna say, is it not Romelu Lukaku?
It might be Lukaku.
I'm saying I think Aubameyang.
Okay, so without the goals that he scored last night, Lukaku, the top goal scorer in the UEFA Europa League is Bruno Fernandes, having scored for Sporting Lisbon, and I think it was a penalty for you guys.
You mean Fernandes?
Yes,
Bruno Fernandes.
Bruno.
Wow.
Yeah. So, gents, thank you very much for joining, for coming on and having the conversation on the Champions League. This is the cheap seats for everybody watching. Do follow the games this weekend. They're very interesting and good. and can provide a lot of entertainment. You've also got the Europa League quarterfinals on Monday. So that's also going to keep us going. We've got a lot of football going on, but do join us next week as well when we bring you the review and probably the preview of the quarterfinals as well in the Champions League. From myself, Wahid, AB, and Cyrus, it is good night and goodbye. Enjoy the Champions League games.